Mega consolidation is underway in the India's online pharmacy space. Some big players who were speculated to enter the market are finally joining the fray. We saw Reliance Retail planning to invest 620 crores into Chennai-based NetMeds, an e-pharmacy chain. We also have Amazon, after a long in and outs, finally deciding to enter the pharma chain and the e-pharmacy space. And we also had the merger of PharmEasy and MedLife, two local players coming together to take on this big space. Why this is going to be an exciting time for both the consumers, pharma companies, and also the retail and offline stores. This is going to change the way consumers deal with this space, and also how companies, more specifically pharma companies, are going to see a shift in their strategy. Early days, but there is a lot of action that is expected. We'll take you through on what this means to the Indian pharma market. Why is the online pharma space so attractive? Well, for that, you need to know about the entire gambit of the India's pharma market space. Indian pharma market is estimated to be close to $20 billion. This, you're talking about just the Indian pharma market, where $20 billion is the space, and which is being captured by over thousands of pharmaceutical companies who have been growing their business in different ways. India's pharma market has predominantly been a branded generic market compared to other parts of the world, especially like US, where it's the generics, the pure generics that drives the sales. In India, it's the brands of medicines that drive the chain. This is because for the years and years, pharma companies have cultivated and nurtured their brands, also have struck a great rapport with the medical community, which sort of has given them the confidence as well as the trust of the medical community to kind of push their drugs. This is something that the online pharmacy market is planning to change. Why? Because they think this is a time to bring in the US model of generic drugs. Because ultimately, even though India is a market where the drugs are cheapest anywhere in the world, the out-of-pocket expenses that most Indian consumers have to put in to buy their medicines is still very large. And this is what the pharma companies, the e-pharma companies, planning to sort of change the game. They want to bring in lower medicines for the consumers and also assure the same quality, which they think they can match up with the big pharma companies. This is what going to be the game plan, where India perhaps in few years' time might become a generic market from the current branded generic market. Of course, there are a lot of hurdles for companies, for the e-pharmacies per se, to kind of go through before they reach that stage. And one of the biggest one is the legal issues. So what are the legal issues that the e-pharmacies are facing? There's already several court cases that's going on in Delhi High Court, in Madras High Court, where the offline pharmacy, that is the retailers and the distributors who run the pharmacy chains offline, have objected to the e-pharmacy space because they say the e-pharmacy companies do not have the required regulatory licenses and permissions to run a pharmacy chain.
So, as per the Drugs and Cosmetics Act, it is a pharmacist who has to verify the prescription, dispense the prescription, and it has to be dispensed at the licensed premise, which is a shop, and by a registered pharmacist. So when you strictly apply the law, the Drugs and Cosmetics Act, any kind of home delivery or delivery not being done by a pharmacist, and these kind of things, they are testing the legal boundaries, or technically, depending on what side of the table you are, it can be deemed legal or illegal.
However, we see that few companies have sort of tried to move that needle and have got both offline and online licenses. NetMeds is one of those companies which has licenses for both offline and online space. And this is where we see the legal issues that can sort of flare up in the coming days, where the offline retail chains might object to the online pharmacy guys. But these are early days, and it would ultimately come down to which companies offer cheaper medicine, good quality medicine, and faster delivery to the consumer. So why is it significant that a big player like an RIL or even Amazon entering this space becomes interesting? because we've been talking to a few market players and they suggest that with Amazon and with Reliance entering this space, we will see perhaps in the coming years, these companies might want to come out with their own private label of medicines. The generic business is something that might not just run only on the basis of pure non-branded generics. We might see an RIL brand of medicines coming out, for example, or an Amazon brand of medicines. And this is what it becomes interesting, that it's to get into the branded generic space. Also, all you need to sort of tie down is a good manufacturer of medicines who can supply good quality of medicines. This is something what the Indian government also tried to do with the Jan Aushadhi stores, and this is the same model which we might see a Reliance or an Amazon might take out.
Even in pharma, if you see the chains like Apollo have their own private label, MedPlus has dabbled in private label. So a lot of these guys have private label. Right now it's bordering on acute drug like a cough or a cold or those kind of areas. But tomorrow when they significantly grow in size and create a brand, it can even come in a hardcore prescription area like a cardiac or a diabetes, and it can challenge the doctor's prescription. Like in many developed countries have done this transition from a doctor-led model to a retail-led model in terms of choice of drugs, and the doctor's role would be just to diagnose. Although we are far away from it, at least the direction may go in that manner currently, with the entry of large organized retail chain players, offline or online.
This is what market think. Analysts who are watching this space, they think that perhaps Reliance might want to come out with their own private label of medicines, which would of course be much cheaper, going by most of their strategy where they have gone for lower prices. Wherever they have entered, they have crashed the prices of several commodities. Medicine is also a commodity. However, what is one factor that they need to sort of tackle would be the regulation, because even now, one of the most regulated industries in India remains pharmaceuticals. Also, anywhere in the world, it remains one of the biggest and one of the most regulated industry. This is something why many people who are not from this space have not managed to crack a dent. And this is what someone like an RIL or Amazon, if they plan to come out with their own private label, have to deal with it. That do they have the bandwidth to take on the regulatory requirements that comes with this highly lucrative, highly big, and of course recession-proof business.